Chapter 4 looks at body issues in adolescence. What are the roles of the endocrine glands in puberty? These glands secrete hormones. Hormones are chemical messengers that flow through the bloodstream to influence cells. The release of hormones is likely driven by a complex interplay of both genetics and environment. The hypothalamus is a small area within the forebrain. Its main role is to control motivation and emotion. Examples include the regulation of hunger, hormonal production, menstrual cycles, and sexual behavior. How do the gonads relate to sex hormones? Gonads are the sex organs or reproductive glands. The female gonads are ovaries, male gonads are testes. The gonads release male and female sex hormones. There are several types of sex hormones. Estrogens are produced in the ovaries and stimulate the development of secondary sexual characteristics. Progesterone is produced in the ovaries and has a goal of the length of the menstrual cycle and is very important in preparing the uterus for pregnancy. Androgens are produced in the testes and are male sex hormones that stimulate the development of secondary sex characteristics. Males and females both have both male and female sex hormones in their bodies. In females, this is attributable to the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are located above the kidneys. In addition to producing adrenaline, adrenal glands produce small amounts of relatively weak androgens, male sex hormones, in males. Menarche is the onset of menstruation. This occurs during the middle of puberty, around 12 years of age, although onset ranges from 9 to 15 years in healthy females. The timing of an individual girl's menarche is determined by genetic and environmental factors. Physical problems sometimes accompany menstruation. Menorrhea is painful and difficult menstruation. Menorrhagia is excessive bleeding, possibly caused by an excess of prostaglandins. Amenorrhea is the absence of the flow caused by either physical or psychological issues, and metrorrhagia is bleeding from the uterus at times other than the menstrual cycle. What are secondary sexual characteristics? These are the characteristics that differentiate male and female bodies, but they are not essential for reproduction, such as body hair. There are a number of physical features of secondary sexual characteristics, increases in body hair for both sexes, but more so for boys than girls, an enlarged larynx for boys, and increased mass for boys, or body fat for girls. Growth in height and weight. There are sex differences in the growth spurt. Girls begin growing rapidly about 2 years earlier than boys. The girls' growth spurt begins at about 12 years of age. The boys' growth spurt begins at about 14 years of age. This means girls on average are taller than boys between ages 12 and 14 and are heavier than boys between ages 10 and 14. Body image. Self-esteem is linked to perceived physical attractiveness during adolescence. The health-related choices that adolescents make are linked to the way they feel about their physical appearance. Adolescent self-perceptions are important and are heavily influenced by cultural standards. How does physical attractiveness shape development? Attractive adolescents are thought of in more positive terms. They tend to have high self-esteem and personality attributes, and this is a bigger influence for girls than the boys. When it comes to maturation, timing is very important. Most people want to go through maturation at about the same time as their peers. We will see some influences on adolescents who go through maturation either early or late. For girls, early maturing girls, this is not necessarily positive. These girls tend to feel awkward and self-conscious. They're typically heavier, rounder, and have more body fat than their peers. They are at a higher risk for internal disorders such as anxiety and depression. eating disorders. They may be more likely to engage in delinquent acts, violent behaviors, and they may also engage in early sexual behavior. For early maturing boys, there tends to be a positive benefit. They have athletic advantages because they have increased physical size. They also may have social advantages because of their success in sports gives them social prestige. And their interest in girls may promote early romantic relationships. Although the negative consequences to early maturing boys is that they actually start to hang out with older peers, which may lead to things like smoking, alcohol use, and illegal drugs. They may also be at risk for externalizing problems such as aggression and risky sexual behavior. For late maturing girls, there are some social disadvantages. Because these girls look young, they may have a lower social status and be treated as younger than their peers. They're typically later to enter romantic relationships, and they may envy their more mature friends. They also have some advantages. They experience less criticism, and most disadvantages are minor and transitory. For late maturing boys, this is a disadvantage. Late maturing boys experience negative consequences due to their smaller physical size. They experience socially induced inferiority. They consequently experience body dissatisfaction and negative self-concept. They have higher rates of drinking and drug use, and they tend to develop negative attitudes about sexuality. The health status of adolescents is that adolescents are relatively healthy compared to other age groups. Most of their health problems are due to either risk behaviors or genetics. This means that teaching adolescents how to make healthy choices is very important in reducing adolescent mortality. What are the most common causes of adolescent mortality? When we're talking about mortality, we're talking about the death rate. The top causes of death among adolescents are accidents, homicide, and suicide. All of these are preventable. What influences adolescents' health decisions? Knowledge of health consequences is based on what adolescents have been taught by their adults and peers, also what they've seen in the media. Adolescents vary in their cognitive skills, especially those related to the ability to make rational decisions in a risky situation. Parents who don't care about their own health or are too controlling of their adolescents do not instill these healthy behaviors in their children. Resources available to the adolescent and his or her family influence their ability to stay healthy. Peer pressure has very strong influence. Societal values dictate the messages adolescents receive about socially accepted actions and values. What health behaviors should adolescents adapt? It is important that adolescents understand what it means to eat well, exercise sufficiently, maintain a healthy weight, and get enough sleep. Adolescents need to be taught the long-term effects of healthy lifestyle choices. Nutrition. Adolescents are also at risk for nutrient deficits, mainly due to inadequate diets. Adolescent diets are often high in other nutrients such as cholesterol, sodium, fat, and sugar, which are actually linked to poor health outcomes. Exercise. Around 50% of teens engage in vigorous physical activity. 29% engage in at least 1 hour of physical activity per day, and 15% report no regular physical activity. Girls are typically less active than boys. Exercise in adolescence is important because physical fitness promotes overall health, weight maintenance, and improved mood and mental health. Adolescents should get 30 minutes of moderately intense physical activity on all or most days of the week. What factors lead to adolescents becoming obese? 20% of adolescents are obese, and this rate continues to increase. Multiple factors are tying into this. The emotional factor. Some individuals have greater appetites or tendencies to eat in response to emotions. The social factor. Things such as skip breakfast, binge eating, or frequent snacking, food preferences, lack of exercise, family interactions, peer interactions, school influence, and communities all influence the obesity rates. Sleep. How much sleep do adolescents need? They need a minimum of 9 hours of sleep per night. 80% of teenagers do not meet this recommendation. Melatonin is a hormone that makes you sleepy. In adolescents, it occurs 2 hours later than in children and in adults. We know that sleep deprivation is linked to poor school performance, smoking, drinking, mental health issues, and traffic accidents. School schedules may actually influence adolescents' abilities to get enough sleep, and later start times have benefits for promoting sufficient sleep.